My sons, Scout and Hatcher, both believed that before they were babies gestating in my body, they were shooting stars. The stars had eyes and they could think. They knew they wanted me to be their mother. They knew my husband, Sean, would be their dad. One night, Sean and I were having sex in a big, lonely basin just below the Continental Divide. It was early August, a year and a month after our wedding, and we had thrown our sleeping bags in a meadow full of columbine husks. Though we knew it could snow, we carried no tent, just bags zipped together so that we formed one big love burrito. In the dark, we pressed our bodies together, chest to chest, hip bones knocking, attempting to fuse into one person. We had been talking about babies even as we'd wound down the Alcan Highway, coming home to Colorado after a summer in Alaska. Sean wanted to be a father because his own dad had failed so miserably. Now he was looking for karmic comeuppance. He wanted to spirit a family across the West, hike in the desert, ski and fly fish, read Ed Abbey to his children while they slept. I, however, knew that if I had kids, I would just fuck them up. In many ways. According to the National Criminal Justice Service, I was 5 times more likely than the average person to abuse my children. Having babies and caring for them was for someone loving and stable. Apparently, that didn't matter to Scout. That night, high above the Continental Divide, he was already winging through the autumn sky. When he saw me lying in a field of dead flowers, he thought I looked like the perfect place to stop his flight. Burning and full of energy, he dropped into my body, ready to become a boy. 9.5 months later, I am bigger than a helium balloon, and Sean and I are on our way to our obstetrician's office in Steamboat Springs. We leave our house in Granby and drive west, past the cattle ranches in Kremling and the bald eagles perched on trees above the Colorado River. An hour and a half later, we arrive at Yampa Valley Medical Center. There, a nurse greets us. "So," she says, "how are you feeling?" "Good," I answer. "How are the contractions?" "Good, I think. I'm not sure I'm having them." "Are you nervous?" Sean slips his fingers through mine and smiles weakly. We are both scared shitless because of the unknown, because we are small and young, and because we decided weeks ago, after the first Lamaze class, that we'd rather wing the birthing process than hang out with a bunch of droopy, boring pregnant people who 9 months from then would give up everything they love to become parents. Now the nurse wraps a blood pressure cuff around my fat upper arm, pumps the rubber ball, and counts my pulse with 2 fingers. She removes the cuff, rewraps it, and pumps it again. The 3rd time she unwraps, rewraps, and pumps, she says, "Did you bring your overnight bag?" 2 hours later, we have checked into a room on the delivery floor of the hospital where we have been summoned because my blood pressure is too high to go home. In 3 more hours, my doctor will come and induce labor. He will ask me to lay on my back and spread my legs good and wide so he can see all the way up to my tonsils. He will poke my cervix, which will make me want to vomit, and then tell me that I'm days, if not weeks, away from dilation. He will say flippantly, "You're not even softening." And I will be shocked that he thought that could happen. "What?" I ask. "Softening. You're not softening." I think back to how I felt the one and only time Sean and I went to Lamaze class. The real reason for my rejection was a decision I made years ago to put a clamp over my sexual organs. I sealed them with a blowtorch, built plutonium-enriched shields. For 6 years in my childhood and early teens, I was sexually abused by my father. This is the reason I am 5 times more likely than the average person to abuse my children. When the doctor repeats again that I am not softening, I think, no shit, I'm not softening. I will never soften. I am a lead shell of fear. Fortunately, there are drugs to take care of my condition. The doctor spreads some magical softening cream on my cervix, inserts a gel tab of labor-inducing Pitocin, and tells me to wait. When he leaves, I am relieved, but now worried about the contractions I know will come. I switch on the television and wait for a python to squeeze my belly. The waiting goes on for 12 hours until morning comes, and with it, more devices. This time when the nurse comes in, she says, "This is the day, I know it." And she's right, because my doctor follows her with a long hooked poker. He uses it to break my water. Now the contractions will come, he promises, and with them, a new boy. He's right. The contractions do come, but with them, trouble. As soon as they arrive, Scout's heart rate begins to flutter. Summoned back to my room, my doctor shoves an electrode into my uterus, fishes around for Scout's head, and sticks a white pad to his temple. Scout is fine, yet seeing my worried expression, the nurse says, "Relax, honey. Something will happen soon. Don't worry." But I do worry. I worry that I have made the shield too strong. I worry that even now, I am too broken to experience this joy. How can I tell the nurse and doctor and Sean that there is no way a baby is getting past the clamp? How can I tell them that it is a medical impossibility for something so bright and beautiful to move through a place so damaged? In the end, of course, I can't tell them or deliver Scout vaginally. At 2:30 a.m. on the morning of May 18th, 2001, my doctor tells me that while my uterus is exhausted from so many contractions, I can still try to deliver my boy. He's fine, he says. We're monitoring him, but you've been going at this for days. You're exhausted. If you want, we can take him by. Before he can even say the word cesarean, I say, I'm ready. At 3 a.m., the sun has not yet poured over the horizon, and it is still dark enough to count 1,000,000 stars. This is when I told Dr. Schaller to cut Scout out of my body. Sean put scrubs on over his rumpled clothes and walked alongside the stretcher as they wheeled me to surgery. On the operating table, I felt the doctors cutting me open, digging for Scout. When they got to him, he was lodged deep in my pelvis, his head smashed against my bones. It took significant tugging, but when they pulled him out of the blood and entrails and lifted him up to the light, It took significant tugging, but they pulled him out of the blood and entrails and lifted him up to the light. When they finally laid him on my chest, I noticed that the top of his head was shaped like a missile. It was as if he had taken a long journey from the far reaches of space to meet me. He had come full of love, despite damage already done.